How was a 20-year-old able to defeat Secret Service security measures that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and get onto a rooftop within 150 meters of Trump, then fire multiple shots? Are my tax dollars going straight into a dumpster fire? This isn't a knock on the incredibly brave and fast response by many officers. This video is focused on two main pre-planning operational failures in security based on new reports, eyewitness accounts, and statements from officials close to the rally security planning. The first security failure happened at 5:40 p.m., about half an hour before the shooting, when a local police officer spotted a suspicious-looking man holding a rangefinder at the entrance to the rally. A rangefinder is a small device that you can look through like a scope or binoculars. You press a button on it and it digitally gives you the exact distance of a target that you're aiming at. The suspect was pacing around outside the metal detectors at the bag area check. Officers thought maybe the device was just to observe the speech and the rally better. The officer put out a message, though, over the radio net to warn everyone of this sus behavior, which was passed along to Secret Service and other agencies. Now, AP reported that police officers then lost sight of him in the crowd as they tried to follow him. According to John Miller, a former senior FBI agent, people had his description and were looking around for him. Even when regular cars drive up to a typical DUI checkpoint, for instance, if they try to pull a U-turn and avoid it, it's standard operating procedure to have a second police officer in what's called a chase vehicle to stop them. So already we're off to a rough start, and that's why Americans are angry right now. We want to know exactly who is in power, who's responsible for this oversight, and we want them held accountable. To get there, though, we have a lot of questions, and so far, the answers we're getting do not look good. So what happened next is the shooter made his way from the event security around the AGR building perimeter, and he was able to breach it without being apprehended. This is the second pre-planning major security failure. Because beforehand, they're supposed to lock all the doors and make sure there's no way to gain roof access and post officers around the building and on top of it. Let's take a closer look at the complex of 4 separate buildings at 615 Whitestone Road, where he fired from. Google Maps Street View actually shows us the parking lot, and we can see there are multiple locations just in the 2 seconds of looking here where someone could jump up on top of that storage shed, for instance, and get to the rooftop, even without a ladder. This occurred on a Saturday after 6 p.m., so the building was likely closed, which means it should have been easy to spot anyone acting sus around here walking around because there shouldn't have been employees over there. Secret Service spokesperson Anthony Guglielmi said that the agency had designated that specific rooftop to be under the jurisdiction of law enforcement. Director of Secret Service Kimberly Cheadle, in charge of the whole Secret Service, said, quote, "There was local police in that building. There was local police in the area that was responsible for the outer perimeter of the building." Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger told NBC News, though, that his office deployed 4 quick response teams and 4 sniper teams at the rally on Saturday. He claimed that the Secret Service was responsible for security outside the Butler Farm Show and that they were the #1 in the command hierarchy there. So, where I'm standing, it appears like the Secret Service looks like they're casually shifting blame and suggesting that it was someone else's fault for an operation that they were fully in charge of. I feel like the only thing I would need to complete my blame game bingo card is if someone comes out and says mistakes were made. What happened next is shocking to watch, not because it's graphic, but because it's hard to imagine how this failure in perimeter security in advance could happen. Attendees standing here noticed the shooter already on top of the roof. It was recorded on video and posted on X by an attendee in the crowd who spotted the shooter crawling on the AGR rooftop. For about a full minute, the video plays and shows the shooter on the roof while people are trying to warn authorities. Lined up video with the moment in the speech shows that the crowd had spotted and was warning police for about at least 2 minutes before the shots were fired. The attendees did the right thing here, trying to alert the police, and listen to what this eyewitness has to say about it.
I noticed 2 officers that were looking for something or somebody and went and told the officer that he was up there.
Michaelides is a former Secret Service agent, and he gave some insight into what might have happened. That it might have been possible they couldn't tell if the suspect had a rifle in hand and wanted to fire on them. They might have dispatched officers on the ground to check and confirm. I've had some time to process what has happened, and personally I feel like if you're on a restricted rooftop within 150 meters of the president, even if you're just holding your dick in your hand, you're asking to get brained. According to Butler County Sheriff Michael Sloop, This is what happened next. 2 local officers were already looking for the shooter due to what happened at the metal detectors. One officer was hoisted up by his partner by standing on his hands so he could look out over the edge of the roof to get eyes on the suspect. The second officer on the roof had both of his hands holding himself up in like a pull-up position to peer out onto the rooftop. So they encountered the shooter while he was on that roof. The gunman turned around and pointed his rifle directly at the officer, so the officer fell back down to avoid getting shot in the face. That's when the shooter took aim and fired at Trump. Now, Fox News spoke with Bill Gage. He's a 13-year veteran of the Secret Service, and Bill said, quote, "Just because someone's on a roof doesn't mean the counter sniper guys can just open fire. They operate under Graham v. Connor use of force rules." So what that means is that legally they would have to have perceived a threat in order to pull triggers and not end up getting thrown into jail potentially later. So people are going to be asking questions about the rules of engagement, use of force. Should that change, or should the Secret Service be given more resources? As more information is coming out, we're learning that there may have been a total of 4 counter sniper teams in place throughout the rally. Reports indicate that one team was located on the building behind Trump, another team was located closer to the crowd. It's unclear which team effectively engaged the shooter at this point. Another team of police were said to have been actually located inside the building that the shooter was on, which somehow makes all of this worse. I sound like a Monday morning quarterbacking here, but something we did in the Army after every mission I went on in Iraq that a lot of you will probably be familiar with is an after action report, or AAR. The point of an AAR is to look at yourself in the mirror, be self-critical, and look at what went wrong, what went right, and how to improve. It's the only way to honestly improve and move forward. And law enforcement works on similar principles and values. This is a developing story though, so follow me on Instagram at Cappy Army for more up-to-the-minute updates that I'm going to be posting there. This eyewitness who saw the shooter sums up how a lot of Americans are feeling right now.
My question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not at every building?
There are 2 aspects to event security that need to be analyzed separately. The first is the advanced preparation, all the aspects that go into preventing a shooting or bombing from ever occurring in the first place. The second is the immediate response to if a shooting or threat does occur. This was clearly a major failure of that first aspect, and we may learn details in the future that it was a failure in the second aspect as well. Trump posted on Truth Social right after the event saying, quote, "I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place." Some people believe they should have moved Trump faster out of the kill zone. But personally, this is my thoughts here. I think Trump wanted to show that iconic moment of symbolic defiance to the attempt on his life. And to him, it was worth it taking that extra moment. Sometimes a picture can go a long way in helping unite people and can change the perception of that moment from one potentially of weakness to something of strength instead. You might have a different opinion, and that's okay. We have to keep in mind that the Secret Service is not an intelligence agency. They rely on information about credible threats from the FBI and other investigative agencies. How many Secret Service agents does our taxpayer dollars pay for? About 7,800 of those agents are split up to protect all government officials, including cabinet members, senators, current, past presidents, visiting heads of state, etc. So basically, they're overseeing thousands of missions each year, which is part of the reason why they have to pull from local police departments, small town police departments like Butler and Pittsburgh, in order to fill their manpower. The amount of taxpayer money that goes into the FBI, Secret Service, and intelligence agencies is huge. The FBI has an annual budget of $11 billion. The Secret Service has $3 billion a year. And that's why we hold them to high standards. And that's partly why I think this next part's, it's justified to talk about. According to their website, quote, "Our diverse workforce is comprised of more than 7,000 special agents. Regular viewers of the channel will know that I'm not a culture warrior. I saw Barbie with my wife, I liked it, but that statement from the Secret Service it rubs me the wrong way. Because it kind of suggests that diversity is of paramount importance to an agency whose one job is supposed to be keeping public officials safe. Who's responsible for that? Kimberly Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service, who was appointed by Biden in 2022. She's going to have to answer questions from Congress at a hearing scheduled for July 22nd. Many are calling for her to step down and resign in the wake of this failure. But the reason she's in the spotlight right now and under a microscope is because She made it her aim to comprise the Secret Service of 30% of women by 2030. A lot of people, they're not upset, I don't think, with the idea of there being women in the Secret Service. Not necessarily. That's not what's making people's blood boil right now. I think most people are upset because there's a quota, meaning that they're forcing this onto the Secret Service instead of leaving the option open. People don't want to see standards lowered or social engineering experiments where other people's lives are at stake. They want the best person for the job, male, female, gay, straight. This is why people get pissed off when they hear people are getting killed or injured, and the focus is not on performance and merit above all. Currently, the motive of the shooter remains unclear. The FBI found bomb-making materials in his car and home, but they were described as rudimentary. He wasn't on the authorities' radar for anything. People have been sleuthing around trying to figure out who this dude is, but there isn't much to go on with his social media accounts, no big old manifesto yet. His politics aren't obvious either. People have dug up records showing that he's a registered Republican, but he also donated $15 to a political action committee for the Democrats and the progressives in 2021. A few former classmates say he had conservative leanings, but we're still waiting on all of this to shake out. Something that's important to Americans is something that's important to a lot of countries. We aspire to hold public officials who are in power accountable for their actions. Please keep in mind that this is a developing story, so I'm going to be changing my opinion on what happens in real time as we get more information on the new facts. I'm going to adjust my thoughts. If you want an update on information, follow me at Cappy Army on Instagram or on Twitter, or you can go to our Reddit subreddit, Task and Purpose 2, or our Discord. All these links are in the description if you want more frequent updates on this and other geopolitical happenings around the world. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy, signing off this net. Time now.